I'll try to explain why I don't hate Muslims, even Muslims who protest in the streets, even Muslims who seem to express outrage over Salman Rushdie's book, The Satanic Verses, even Muslims who seem to express outrage over cartoons drawn about Muslims, because I have privileged information and I'm ready to share it with you, so you'll know this privileged information. Here's why I don't blame Muslims. Think back to 1968, when many young people were running in the streets in America, and all over the world, in fact, simultaneously. Was it coincidence that students in Europe and in South America and the United States were all protesting against their governments simultaneously? It could have been a coincidence. Think back to 1968. And think about how Obama got elected and who elected him. I'm going to share some of this inside information and send you to find more of it. I'm not withholding it. My purpose on YouTube is to disseminate this information. Did the Vietnam War protesters know this in 1968? Did Bill Ayers, for example, and Bernardine Dorn in the Weather Underground, who exploded bombs and actually killed several American citizens and intended to kill several American soldiers and their dates at a military base? Instead, that bomb exploded in their hands and killed some of them. The media doesn't say much about that. Did Bill Ayers and his friends, before we get angry with Bill Ayers and his friends, we can get angry with him later, did these protesters know that in a small town in South Vietnam, and I'm talking about the Tet Offensive, the so-called stalemate, according to Walter Cronkite, who turned out to be, in hindsight, by his own confession, expressing his opinion, which happened to be false, when he called the Tet Offensive a stalemate. In fact, U.S. and South Vietnamese forces kicked ass during the Tet Offensive. This was their last best shot at a military action. They gave it their best. It was the Tet Offensive, and we kicked ass. We stopped them cold in a matter of days. The South Vietnamese people remained loyal as a whole to the South Vietnamese government and wanted American intervention in their country because they did not want to become communist. But during the Tet Offensive, in a couple of days, several Vietnamese cities were taken by the Viet Cong and held them for only a couple of days until they were beat back by U.S. South Vietnamese forces. Did Bill Ayers and the war protesters know that in a small town in South Vietnam, thousands of Vietnamese were executed? Thousands of Vietnamese were executed in a single night after the city was taken by the Viet Cong, after only 2 days. Yuri Bezmenov says, quote, "The CIA never understood how the communists were able to go so fast, to identify each of them, their homes, where to find them, arrest them, all in one night, in just a few hours before dawn, to put them aboard trucks and drive them out of town and execute them." This is the record of communism. This is what communists do. Some of you socialists on YouTube say, well, that's what the Vietnamese did, and that's what Stalin did, and that's what Castro did, and that's what Chairman Mao did, but we don't advocate that. We advocate utopia. Well, this is the record of communism. This is what communists do. This is what they've done. And what is the real work of the Soviet KGB, or what was the work during those years, during those times? Bezmenov explains most of the activity of the department of the KGB was to compile huge amounts of information on individuals who were then instrumentalized to influence public opinion. For example, publishers, writers, journalists, actors, actresses, educators, teachers, professors of political science, for example, members of parliament, members of Congress, businessmen, whoever might be in a position to somehow influence public opinion to some degree. People who were visible. Most of these people were divided into two groups. Those who supported the policy of the Soviet regime were promoted to positions of power through the manipulation of public opinion and media. How did the Soviets manipulate the media? They infiltrated the media. They brainwashed people and put them into the media, as well as into the governments and into the schools. Those who refused the influence of communism in their countries had their reputations ruined, or as an example I just told you about in South Vietnam, in Hanoi, or they were executed.